Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Guild Wars 1 Let's Play. Today I'm doing Bogroots. I did this run earlier today with a friend of mine. He hopped on and helped me out, so thank you to Shiv for helping me out. Um, he's also supplied some lovely supplies for future projects, so thanks for that as well. I'll be showing those off later whenever I actually get the practice down. But we're going to be doing the next Assyrian dungeon, Bogroot Groats. Now this is a pretty easy dungeon that I've done a lot in my earlier years playing this game. It's got a rare scepter reward, a frog scepter, that is quite expensive. You can actually see one in my inventory there, but that's not like an expensive one. That's just a random one just to have a scepter. But some of the really good attributed ones can be some of the most expensive non-old schools in the game. Stuff like healing and domination being the two most expensive to my knowledge. Very fun dungeon to do in like a speed running setting, just because it's easy. There's a lot of fun builds that you can kind of use here that you can't really use in other dungeons because of how like generally easy it is. A lot of the other dungeons are also easy, but they're a little bit more restrictive on what you can run. Not this place, not very restrictive. As long as you have one dervish and one tank, you're basically, everybody else can run whatever on earth they want to run. If you're doing this with heroes, I would maybe recommend running some sort of tank build on the player, just so you can run this first floor after you open that gate. You'll save yourself, I don't know, 10 minutes running with heroes, and it'll also make stuff like the final boss easier. You probably don't need to run a full tank build, but just like, I don't know, half and half it, maybe. But this first floor is pretty easy. It's just a whole bunch of running. Let's talk a little bit about the theming of this dungeon. This dungeon is pretty cool in that there are actually two quests for this dungeon. And which quest you take actually changes the spawn and final boss of the dungeon. The dungeon, this room in particular, is actually really cool. I wanted to mention it right now as I was just looking at it. I really love that big tree in the middle of the arena there. But this dungeon features warring frog tribes, basically. A red and a yellow frog tribe. And you're helping an Asuran, one of two Asurans, with their desires to get through here. So we're going to be popping into the next floor now. So pretty easy. As you can see, we literally only had to half kill one mob, and everything else just running. So pretty easy. I have a lot of fond memories of this dungeon as a kid, or even younger, just because it's a it's the kind of dungeon that, because it was easy, because you didn't need very many people, you could kind of always do it. So no matter what was going on, if not a lot of people were on, or if we were waiting for somebody, it's just a quick run. We could grab a whole bunch of people and do it. Because it wasn't very hard, it wasn't very, like, you can bring a lot of friends that maybe normally weren't interested in this kind of content, and they could run silly builds and have fun. So yeah, I personally enjoyed this dungeon. You can solo this one as well, but it's a little annoying, so I decided just to bring a friend and we're going to do it this way. The skill Ebon Escape, the third skill on my bar here, absolute lifesaver. It's a pretty insane skill. It jumps you to an ally and heals both you and that ally for 110 if you're Ebon Vanguard. I've actually never bothered to maybe try to use it on a PvE healing build, but it heals 110 on a short cooldown, low energy cost. The only problem is obviously you jump into AoEs, but for something like this where you're running, it's insanely useful. And yeah, it's just a standard shadow form tank basically, and a Valve Strength Dervish. Valve Strength being just like a massive AoE skill for Dervish. This is probably one of the better builds in the entirety of the game. Could be used for a ton of different stuff. Speed clears, runs, farming, general PvE. But as I mentioned, the spawns in here actually change based off which quest you pick up at the front, either Griff's War or Tech's War. Griff and Tech being the name of a certain researchers, I believe, outside. I don't believe those are actually the name of the... Yeah, Griffin Tech are the name of the Asuran researchers outside, not of the Frogies within. But it doesn't actually change the dungeon a ton. It's just that this boss here that we're killing would actually have been on the other side of that door that we just ran through, and the final boss changes. We are currently doing Griff's War, as it's generally the easier of the two to do. There actually isn't a lot of like really special stuff for this dungeon. Just bring some anti-melee and you'll be fine, realistically. This is funny here. I get a group spawn on me, so we have a little bit of a slight panic. Yep. Kill that thing real good, and now we're on to the final boss. As I said, it's a nice and quick dungeon, especially if you know what you're doing. But it's one of those dungeons where, because a lot of the time is cut out by running, if you're doing it with heroes, this dungeon can actually still take upwards of 20 or 30 minutes. I've done it full clear away with a friend in like 16, 17 minutes, but that was with cons and with, I believe, 3 human players on good builds, so do with that info what you may. But I figured some of these I'd, just have a chance to get some old friends back together and go do some silly stuff in game. So we're probably going to be seeing some of my friends making a return in various different dungeons and stuff. The ones that I can solo, I probably will just solo. But definitely when we get to the final dungeon, Slavers, I want to try to get as many of the goons back together and have us run through it like a bunch of idiots, and maybe I'll actually record the banter in Discord and put that up in the video, just for old time's sake. Here I'm just waiting for him to basically just DC onto the middle mob and then just wait for the everything to settle real nice and easy. Alright, everything's settled. Bam! That's it. That's the boss, basically. So this boss uses stuff like Chaos Storm and stuff like that. This is the Mesmer boss, Cabellus. The reason you do this guy, not the other guy, is the other guy, I believe, has heals and some annoying spells. And while this guy does damage, not having to deal with an extra healer that has a huge amount of HP is super, super nice. So now I figured we'd actually just read over the quest dialogue here, because I didn't actually record any of the quest. This is for Griff's War, the quest we're doing right now. The red Grokir frogmen were recently displaced from their natural homes due to the bumbling text fuzzy math. This normally wouldn't concern me, except I'm doing important research. I believe their freshly secreted slime off Grokir's back can be used to create a new fool for my creation. To my disarray, they've relocated to this cave. The traditional home of the once yellow Ophi tribe. Now some ridiculous tribal war has brought my research to a screeching halt. I couldn't care less about the beasties either way, but Groknar didn't create slime once dead, and day-old gunk just won't do. So be a good little buka and destroy the Ophi leader Cabellus. Without tribe leader, they should flee. Give me a chance to get back to work. I'm either worth your while. What do you say? Tex isn't the girl for me. Count me in for the red team. No way. That frog. I know what that frog slime is really for. That's the decline. And then the turn-in dialogue for this one is excellent. This research will not only make me rich, but a boon to all of humanity, if not frogmanity. Now go find a Norn to collect the slime. But yeah, that was it. Just a nice, quick, easy little run. As I said, this place is actually kind of a pain to solo, so that's why I brought a friend along, who will be making at least one more return in another video. But that is going to be the end of today's dungeon. I want to thank you all for coming out. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.